We are back, and I'm joined by Philip Rucker, White House bureau chief at The Washington Post, and MSNBC contributor Jason Johnson, politics editor at The Root. So, Philip, I'll start with you. This idea that John Kelly was sort of the adult in the room, I'm wondering if folks in and around the West Wing feel that his reputation on that score may have taken a blow this week, given what he did to Congresswoman Wilson.
Well, Joy, he certainly leveraged his reputation and the credibility he has as someone who led troops into battle and who lost his own son at war in order to help his boss contain a PR crisis, and didn't do it so effectively, in part because he couldn't get his facts straight. And so we now have this story for a fifth day straight.
Well, I mean, you know, Jason, there isn't such thing as staff, right? I mean, normally no White House official just walks out to a podium without some decent briefing by staff. How could he possibly get so many fundamental details wrong, I mean, including claiming that she bragged about funding that she couldn't have gotten because she wasn't in Congress yet?
Right. Well, Joy, because he's a liar, and he's a liar just like his boss. And look, I never believed in the myth of John Kelly, the organizer. It's always a dangerous sign in a democracy when we're saying the generals will save us. These men are soldiers. They're just soldiers with more epaulets on their shoulders. So he was going to do what Donald Trump wanted. Remember, this is the same John Kelly that supported the Muslim ban. This is the same John Kelly that's perfectly fine with people like Stephen Miller and white nationalists in the White House. I mean, he didn't like Bannon because Bannon was as power hungry as he is. So I don't see any of this as an example of bad staffing. I see it as being a clear revelation that he was always the kind of man who was going to support Trump in his bad behavior. Yeah,
and Philip, it does seem, you know, if you look at General Kelly's history, that he is much more like Trump ideologically than a lot of people who were looking to him as their savior would believe. I mean, it seems to be he's for, you know, he was for keeping Gitmo open. He was for the Muslim ban, as Jason mentioned. He is not some non-Trumpian figure, right?
No, he's very different personally. I mean, he has a different style and a different way of doing business. But I don't think anybody can be the adult in the room with Donald Trump. We've been watching him for 2 years now. And remember, Paul Manafort was going to be the adult in the room, and then Steve Bannon was going to make him a disciplined candidate, and then Reince Priebus, the establishment figure, was going to create more discipline around him as president, and now John Kelly can't even do it. Trump is going to be Trump, and that's what we're all coming to understand.
And you know, Jason, it hasn't just been about John Kelly. People have also looked at H.R. McMaster and General Mattis and saying, well, if worse comes to worse, if Donald Trump tries to go for the nuclear football, they'll tackle him and it'll all be fine. Are people just being delusional in trying to look to those other two generals, let alone Kelly?
Well, first off, I don't know if I ever want to put my confidence in the guy whose nickname is Mad Dog. I mean, it just never seemed like a good idea to me. But at the end of the day, Joy, think about this. If the safety of the world and our democracy depends on we trust guys to tackle the president if he tries to start a nuclear war, that's a really low threshold. So do I believe they'll keep us all from being annihilated? I guess so. But will they keep him from engaging in policies that could exacerbate tensions in this country, knock people off of health care, and basically erode our relationships with everyone else in the world? I don't think they care about that because they haven't done a good job of stopping him already.
Yeah, and I think, you know, part of what Donald Trump, Philip, is doing is relying on people's, you know, faith in the military, right? You know, the military still polls as the most popular, trusted institution of American institutions, far above things like the presidency and even the media, even, you know, bigger than church and religion. Is that something that White House staff are deliberately doing? They're deliberately saying, when we get in trouble, we're going to push a general forward because we know, even if it isn't really true, somehow that is soothing to a lot of Americans.
Yeah, we've seen it actually, that move played twice now in the last 2 weeks. Last week, Kelly came out to the briefing room and had that whole presentation with reporters as a way to turn the page on what had been a very damaging narrative building about Trump as this furious president who can't get things done and is lashing out at people. Then we saw it again this week, and part of it is the president's own fixation and fascination with military figures as someone who went to military school but didn't actually serve in the military. Yeah,
pointedly did not serve. 5 deferments. But, you know, Jason, at the same time, General Kelly does seem to share something else with Donald Trump, and that is a penchant to go after and attack a woman. He said there's nothing sacred. Women used to be sacred. He sure did go after a woman and a woman of color. Maybe he just wasn't listening to her when she was talking, giving her speech.
No, Joe, I've said this all along. Black women are the kryptonite to this administration. I swear, if you are a black woman that has anything to say, they are immediately triggered. They can't deal with it, whether it's April Ryan, whether it's Susan Rice, whether it's Jamel Hill, and now it's Congressman Wilson. And at the end of the day, what this really speaks to is an administration that at their core is afraid. They're afraid of being exposed by people who aren't afraid to them. And they've never been controlled by the military. Remember, Trump didn't do that good in military school either.
Yeah, not indeed. Philip Rucker, Jason Johnson, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys.